Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Gabin from Design Tribe, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I designed this flyer in Photoshop. It's going to be a pretty long video, so I advise you to watch to the end because there are a lot of tips and tricks that I'm going to be showing you in this tutorial. So let's get straight to it. The first thing I did was to create a new project, and the size of it is 1000 by 1000 pixels, and the resolution is 300 pixels. And once that is created, first thing I want to do right now is to create a background color for my design. So I'm just going to create a gradient for that, and I'm going to select blue. So I'm just going to go to blues, and I'll select a dark blue color like this, and I'm just going to modify that a little by going to brightness and bringing this down like this, and this side, so just bring it down a little like that, and I'm going to click on OK. So like you can see here, I brought in this road, so I'm just going to go to my files and I'll bring in the road image, and this is the image which I used. So just drag and drop, increase the size to something about this size, and once that is done, first thing I did was to take away this middle lines from the road. So for that I used the patch tool. So I'm just going to select my patch tool like this, just select a section of it. Before doing that, I'll rasterize the layer. I'll just click here, drop here. You see the patch tool does a pretty good job taking away the colors like that. So I'm just going to do this, and once this is done, I'm now going to add a mask to this layer. I'll just add a mask like that, select my brush, go to my brush settings, bring down my hardness to 0, and increase the size of my brush to be a big brush like this, and reduce this a little more, and I'll just brush around. So you don't want to come too close to the edges, so I'm just going to brush around like this until when the buildings start disappearing like that. So I'm just going to bring this up a little. I need some more of this, so I'm still going to use my patch tool to take out more of this area like that. So once that is done, the next thing I did was to create a copy of this background layer and drop on everything. And the reason for that is I want the road to have the same color as this blue. So when I drop it there, I'm just going to create a clipping mask and change my blend mode to color, and maybe reduce the saturation a little like that. But before that, I'm going to add a black and white, or I'm going to add a hue and saturation layer before this color layer like this, and here in this hue and saturation layer I'm going to take away the colors from the road. I'm just going to desaturate it like that, and I think I'll just drop this blue and reduce the opacity a little, something like this. Okay, so once that is done, the next thing I did was to bring in my question mark sign. So I'm just going to type in question mark like that, and once that is typed in, I'll use Ctrl T, increase the size to something like this, and I'm going to go to edit, perspective, warp, and here I'll rasterize the layer before doing that. So once I click there, I'm going to make a selection around this question mark like that, click on warp, and I'm just going to click here, move this down like this. If you have a problem understanding the perspective warp tool, I did a video on that, so I'm going to drop a link for that video so you can go and watch. I don't want us to waste so much time on this particular video, so I'm just going to do this, and I think it's layered down. Increase it like that. Okay, once that is done, I'm just going to click on OK, and the next thing I'm going to do to blend this question mark sign where with the background, so it actually shows that this sign was part of the road, is that I'm just going to double click here. I double click on my layer styles. I'll come to this underline layer here, and I'll split the slider into two by holding Alt or Option key on my keyboard and pressing there. When I click there, I'll just separate the two like this, and once that is separated, just going to click on OK. Then the next thing I did was to bring in this image of this guy. I've done the selection already, so I'm just going to drag this and drop into my project to save us some time. So I'm just going to drag this and bring onto this project. Control T, I'll reduce the size, zoom out like that, and reduce the size of my subject to something like this. Then I'm going to blow this up again, reduce the size a little like that, and position him somewhere here. The idea is to give the illusion that he's actually standing on the road and on this question mark. So I'm going to zoom in a little. If you look here, you see that this part was not well selected, so I'm just going to zoom in again. I will use my pen tool to make a selection around his hand, this area. Once the selection is made, I'll right click, now click on make selection, put my fader at 1.5 pixels, and I'll go to my layer styles and fill that with black to take out that color, and I'm just going to zoom out like that. Oops, I pressed the wrong button, so I'm just going to press Control minus to zoom out like that. Okay, and once that is done, the next thing I did was to create the sunlight, this light around here. So I used an orange color for that. So in order to stress looking for the color, I'm just going to select this color and go back here. Now I'm just going to create a new layer, here, and I'll use my brush tool. Make sure it's a big brush, big soft brush, and I'm going to paint in here like this, gently. You want to paint in a way that the reflection of the light will also hit the road down here. You don't want to paint so hard on the road, but you want to paint in a way that the reflection of this light will hit the road down here. So once that is done, next thing I want to do is to actually create some shadows to show that he's actually standing here. But before we do that, since the light is coming from his face, his back part has to be dark. So to make that dark, I'm just going to create a curves adjustment layer for that, and I'll clip it on this layer where he is found to ensure that this effect affects just the layer on which the man is found. And I'm just going to bring down my curves like this. I think at this point is good. And then next thing I'm going to do is just to create some shadows. So I'm come beneath the layer where the man is, create a new layer, switch my brush to a soft brush, foreground color black, reduce the size of my brush to something like this, and I'm just going to click here once like that, Ctrl T, and I'm just going to reduce it down like this to create my shadow. Just going to position it there like that. We want to zoom in so it can be a little more accurate. Position it like that, rotate, Ctrl J, and bring it this other side like that, Ctrl T, reduce the size a little, something like this. Okay, and I want to drop the opacity a little like that, and drop the opacity of this other layer too, so the shadow looks a little more real. And at this point I'm going to make a selection of the man again, so I'm just going to click on the layer mask to make a selection of him like that. Click on this layer where he is actually found, the actual layer, not on the layer mask. Once I click on this, I'm going to click on Ctrl or Command J to create a copy of him. So once I do that, I'll bring it beneath the original layer, and I'll clip this again because this effect has been applied to the whole image. That is not what we want. So I'm going to reclip this effect back to affect just this layer. And now on this layer which I sent behind, I'm going to transform it by pressing Ctrl T or Command T on my keyboard, and I'm going to right click on it and click on flip vertical. And once it is flipped vertically, I'm just going to align it beneath him like that. So you may want to zoom in a little more to be able to see how he was positioned. So I'm just going to bring this like that. Okay, once that is positioned like that, what we want to do here is to darken this image. So I'm just going to add a levels adjustment layer, and once the levels adjustment layer is added, I'm just going to hold Alt or Option on my keyboard in between these two layers to create a clipping mask, so the effect affects just this layer. So once that is done, I'm going to bring down the bright areas of my subject like this to make everything dark. So once that is done, I'm going to add, sorry, zoom back like this. Once that is done, let me zoom out a little. Once that is done, I'm going to make the shadows look a little more real. So to do that, I'm going to convert this to a smart object, and then I go to blur, Gaussian blur, and I'll blur it out a little. I think bring it down to something like this. And for that layer, I'm going to add a mask to it, and I'm going to use a gradient. So I'm going to switch this to gradient, black to white gradient. So I'm going to click from here like that to soften the effect of the gradient a little like that. Okay, I want to just drop the opacity a little to something like this. Then I'm going to go to my eraser tool make sure the eraser tool is selected. I'll reduce my flow down to about 4%, increase the size of my eraser, and I'm just going to erase. I'll make sure I select on the layer and not on the mask, and I'm going to erase. But to do that, I will need to convert it back to a normal layer. So I'll rasterize it, and I'm just going to use my eraser tool like that, very soft eraser, and I'll erase some parts of the text, like some parts of the shadow, sorry. So I'm just going to reduce this. I'll paint around here like this. All what I'm doing is I'm trying to make this shadow look a little more real than it is, so it interacts with the background so well. So I may want to reduce the size of this, something like this. Just modify it a little. Okay, next thing I did was to bring in a compass. So I'm just going to navigate to where the compass is found. I'll bring it to the topmost layer, and I'll click it like that. Go to select subject, and I'll allow Photoshop to do its work. Once the calculation is done, I'm just going to perfect the selections. So I'll go to my quick selection tool. Here I'll select quick selection tool, and holding shift on my keyboard, I'm just going to click to add this to the selection, and I think the selection is pretty good. I'm just going to click on the mask button. Now reduce the size of this, move this to this point like this, and I'll use a black brush like that, increase the size of my brush. And on the mask button, before doing that, I'm going to change this into soft light, and on the mask I'm going to paint like this, so there is a smooth transition into the background like that. And I'm going to reduce this. The reason for this compass is for direction. Purpose has to do with direction, so that is why I'm using this compass in this design. So I'm just going to drop this down a little like that. Okay, then I'm going to select all of these layers, the former layers, the layers of the man, the shadow, and the question mark like that, and I'll bring them down a little, I think somewhere here like this. Let me just select everything and reduce the size a little, and I'll position it here. Okay, so at this point we are going to create this text effect purpose. So I'm just going to select my text tool and change this color to a blue color like this, maybe a blue color like this one. Okay, and I'll just click here, type in P for purpose, make sure everything is in capital letters, and maybe I'll increase the font size to say 48. Yes, P for purpose, P, Control J, oops, and to make sure I bring this layer behind like that. So I'll select this copy, change that to U, and I'll bring it beneath the P, and I'll just toggle it to the right a little like that. and then I'll create a copy of the U and bring it below this one, change it to an arrow like that, and I'll toggle it to the right using my right arrow key, Ctrl J to create a copy, and I'll bring it below the arrow, change it to another P, and toggle to the right again like this, Ctrl J, bring it under that P, change it to an O, and I'll toggle it to the right like this, Ctrl J, bring it under the O, change it to an S, and toggle it to the right like this. And lastly, Ctrl J, bring it under the S and change it to an E, and I'm going to toggle it to the right like this. Okay, once that is done, now I'm going to add some shadows on these individual letters. Like you can see here, I added some shadows there. So I want the text, the letters of this word to overlap. So to make them overlap, I'm going to add some shadows in between the text. So the very first shadow I'm going to create is on the U, letter U. So I'm going to come here, create a new layer, hold Command or Control on my keyboard, and I make sure I click on the thumbnail button of this text like that, and it selects the whole U. Then I'm going to switch my foreground color to black, use a soft brush like that, and I just dab in. Make sure your brush is very soft like this, and I'll just dab in on the edges like that, just to make it look a little dark. It seems the brush is a little too big. Maybe I zoom in a little more so we can actually see what's going on there. We use your brush size like that, and you just want to create a shadow from the edge like that. So at this point I'm going to move this P to the right a little like that. Okay, go to the arrow, create a layer above it, hold Ctrl or Command on my keyboard and select the layer, use my black brush, and I'm going to paint here like this. Okay, we'll go to the next letter, P, and I'll just repeat the same process like that. Black brush, I'm going to paint here like this. Go to O, create a layer above it, Control Command, and I'm just going to paint here to create that effect. So I'll select this and toggle to the right a little like this, and now go to my S, create a layer above it, Control, like select it like that, use my brush, and I'm just going to create the effect like that. And finally I'll go to E, create a layer above it, and hold Command or Control and I click to make the selection, and I'm just going to paint this in like that. So you now see how we we've created the effects. So I'm going to select all the layers together like this by holding Ctrl and Shift. When you click on the first layer like this, you go to the last one, you hold Shift and you click. It's going to select all of them. So just going to group them like that, and I can type, rename it Peppers. And here I'm just going to go here, open up my layer styles, and I'm going to add a drop shadow to it, a soft drop shadow, something like this. Okay, once that is added, the next text I'm going to add is seminar. I'm just going to click here and type in seminar, Ctrl T, and reduce the size of the word seminar, and I position it here like that. And I'm going to add a drop shadow to it like that. Once the drop shadow is added, same drop shadow as the previous one, I'm going to click on OK and release that. Maybe I'll just drop this into this group so both layers stay together. Increase the size like that, and I position it somewhere here. I'm going to take seminar. I'm going to disable the drop shadow that was previously on the seminar, since this group has a general drop shadow on it. So once that is created, I'm going to position it like that and maybe drop the size a little. So if you're enjoying this video so far, please do well to support me by liking, subscribing to my channel if you're not yet a subscriber. Okay, so at this point I'm going to now create this box, this cloud, this text cloud here. So how did I do that? It's very simple. Just going to switch to my ellipse tool, and I'm going to create a layer here, and I'm going to draw several circles. Draw this, Ctrl J, move this to this point, Ctrl J, move this to this point. So I'm just going to create several duplicates of this like that. Duplicate this again, then I bring it here like this, I think something like this, duplicate them like that. Then I'm going to create Ctrl G, Ctrl T. I'm going to create a small one like this, move it outside. Maybe I use my arrow keys to move it a little out like that. Ctrl J, create another copy, Ctrl T, reduce the size like that. So I think that is done. Now I'm still going to select all of the ellipse layers I've created so far, group them together, convert them to a smart object, and I'm going to move them to this point. Ctrl T, reduce the size a little like this, and rotate it like this. So this is to depict the thought of this guy like that, and I'm going to type within it, and that is the theme of the program, the theme of the purpose seminar. I'm just going to choose a fonts, Adma, a playful fonts. It is my font size to say 6, and the theme is what on earth. What on earth? What on earth am I here? Question mark. It's why on earth am I here? Control T, increase the size a little like that, and then create a copy, reduce the size. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. Select everything, make it a bold text like this. Now just position it somewhere here like that. And also I added a texture on the background. This is the texture I used, so I'm just going to drag it and drop on my design. I'll bring it right above the background layer, somewhere about here. Yeah, right directly above the orange layer. Control T, increase the size like that. And I'm going to change the blend mode to soft light like this, and I'm going to add a mask to it. Use my brush tool, increase the size of my brush, make sure it's soft, and I paint on the edges like this to take out some parts of the details. And that's it. The next thing I did was to bring in, to create this time box and the venue. So I'm just going to go here to my round rectangle tool, change the color to white, and create a shape like this. Once that is created, I'm going to increase the roundness a little like that, increase a little more. Control J to create a copy, Control T, and I increase the size of that copy a little more so it's bigger than the first one I created. I'm going to bring it behind, and on this one I'm going to modify the settings. So I'm going to delete the fill. It's going to have no fill, but I'm going to add a white stroke to it like that, and increase the size of the stroke to something about this. Maybe just increase a little. I don't want the stroke to be too large. Yeah, I think something about this size is good. Okay, we position it like this. Control T, maybe increase the size a little so it's not too close to the other one. And here I'm going to add a mask. Change my brush color to black, reduce the size of my brush like this, small size, and I'm just going to paint at this angle to create an effect. Make sure your brush is a hard brush, and I'm just going to click here, and I'm going to click here also. That creates that effect, and the date is 3 p.m. January 28th. So I'm just going to select my text tool, click here, I'll type in 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Control T, increase the font size, something like this. Position it here, make sure it's above this layer. 3 p.m. Control J to create a copy. I'll type in January 28th. th, select this, then I'll go to my character panel and I'll make this to be an exponent, a superscript like that, and Ctrl T, this is the size to something like this. Okay, next thing I did was to type in the venue, St. Bridget's School, Sonak Street. So I'm just going to St. Bridget, Bamenda. So I'm going to select everything, change my color to white, and I'm bringing it closer to this. Ctrl T, reduce the size a little like that. Then the next thing I did was to bring in the logo, bring it in here, reduce the size like that, just this, and select my rectangular tool, change the color to black, and I'm just going to create a line in between the logo and the text I'm going to type in. And now I'll change my fonts to Montserrat Medium. I'm going to click here, now type Academy Fellowship Cameroon, like that. Select everything together, bring it down, position it here. Maybe I'll select everything and probably make it bold like that. The next thing I did was to create an outline around it. So I'm going to go to my rounded rectangular tool, change the foreground color to white, and I'm going to create a shape around it like that. That's it. Now take this below like that, and I may want to group this, so I'll select all of these. I always like working with groups, so I'm just going to select all these layers, put them in a group. Let me see. Okay, and I group this, Ctrl T, so it's easy to manage them. You can now just convert this to a smart object like that. Okay, position this here, and now all what is left is just to add the phone numbers. So for these, I'm just going to type in phone numbers, +237, like that, and I brought it a little close to this. Ctrl T, and reduce the size a little, just to position it here like that. Okay, so that is it. The only thing I did now was to add the social media handles here. So I don't want this tutorial to be a long one, so I'm not bother adding that, so we'll just leave it like that for now. And what we are going to do now is just to modify the colors a little more. So I always like to color grade my stuff at the end, so I'm just going to select everything, group, convert to a smart object like that, and just go to camera raw. That is where I always do my color grading. And for this particular design, I'm going to warm it up a little like that, and increase my highlights, drop the highlights a little, and increase my whites like that, and increase textures, clarity a little, and I'll go to sharpness and increase it. The good thing about camera raw is that you can always save your settings and come back to them later. Like the settings I saved for the project itself is here, so I can just click here and I go to load settings. So if I want to use the previous settings I used, I'm just going to click and I select it and I open. So it automatically applies the previous settings I used on my project. So if you want to save this, you just have to click here and click on save settings, click on save, and you just assign a name to the effect and you click on save here. So that is it. So I'm just going to click on OK, and we'll see how our design looks. Pretty good. That is how it is. So that is how I achieved this design in Photoshop. If you enjoyed this video, please do well to support me by liking and sharing my content. Subscribe to my channel if you are not yet my subscriber,